Tuesday of Passion Week was a day when Jesus taught and taught much to the people. Reading from Luke chapter 20 and 21, Jesus predicts the future, and Jesus also shares with us the teachings of the kingdom of God. Beginning in Luke chapter 20. Now it happened on one of those days, as he taught the people in the temple, and he preached the gospel, that the chief priests and scribes, together with the elders, confronted him and spoke to him, saying, "Tell us by what authority you are doing these things, and who is it he who gave you this authority?" But he answered and said to them, "I also will ask you one thing, and answer me. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or from men?" And they reasoned among themselves, saying, "If we say from heaven, he will say, 'Why then did you not believe him?' But if we say from men, all the people will stone us, for they are persuaded that John the Baptist was a prophet." So they answered him that they do not know where it was from. And Jesus said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things." Then he began to tell the people this parable. A certain man planted a vineyard, leasing it to vine dressers, and went into a far country for a long time. Now after a vintage time, he sent the servant of the vine dressers that he might give some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the vine dressers beat him and sent him away empty-handed. And again he sent another servant, and they beat him also and treated him shamefully and sent him away empty-handed. And again he sent a third, and they wounded him and also cast him out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Probably they will respect him, and they will see him when they see him." But when the vine dressers saw him, they reasoned among themselves, saying, This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, that the inheritance may be ours. So they cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. Therefore, what will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy the vine dressers and give the vineyard to others. And when they heard this, they said, "Certainly not." Then he looked at them and said to them, "What then is it that is written? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. Whoever falls on that stone will be broken, but whoever it falls, it will be grind him to a powder." Then the chief priests and the scribes, the very hour they sought to lay hands on him, but they feared the people, for they knew that he had spoken this parable against them. So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be righteous, and that they might seize him on his words, in order to deliver him to the power and the authority of the governor. Then they asked him, saying, "Teacher, we know that what you say and teach you teach it rightly, and you do not show personal favoritism, but to teach the way of God in truth. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" But he perceived their craftiness and said to them, "Why do you test me? Show me a denarii. Whose inscription does it have?" And they answered and said, "Caesar's." And he said to them, "Render the things to Caesar, the things that are Caesar's, and render to God the things that are God's." But they could not catch him in his words in the presence of the peoples, and they marveled at his answer and kept silent. And some of the Sadducees, who deny that there is a resurrection, came to him and asked him, saying, "Teacher, Moses wrote to us that if a man's brother dies having a wife, and he dies without children, his brother should take up his wife and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers, and the first took a wife and died without children. The second took a wife and died childless, and the third took a wife. In the like manner, to the 7 also. And they left no children and died. At the last of all the women who died, at the last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife does she become? For all 7 had her as a wife. And Jesus answered and said, the sons of this marry and are given in marriage, but those who are counted worthy attain the age of resurrection from the dead, neither marry nor are given in marriage, nor can they die any more, for they are equal to the angels and the sons of God, being sons of the resurrection. But even Moses showed in the burning bush passage that the dead are raised, when he called the Lord the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. For he is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living, for all live in him. Then some of the scribes answered and said, Teacher, you are spoken well of. But after they dared not question him any more. And he said to them, How can they say that the Christ is the son of David? Now David himself said in the book of Psalms, the Lord said to my Lord, sit by my right hand, till I make my enemies your footstool. Therefore David calls him Lord. How is it then that he is his son? And then in hearing of all the people, he said to his disciples, Beware of the scribes, who desire to go around in long robes and give long greetings in the marketplace and the best seats in the synagogues and have the best places at the feast, who devour widows' houses and for pretense make long prayers. They will receive a greater condemnation. And he looked up and saw a rich putting their gifts in the treasury. He saw a poor widow putting 2 mites. So he said, Truly I say to you, that this poor widow has put more than all. For all these out of their abundance have put their offerings for God. But she has given out of her poverty in all her livelihood that she had. Then as they spoke in the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and donations, he said, These things which you see, the days will come in which not one stone shall be left upon another, and that shall not be thrown down. And they asked him, saying, Teacher, but when will these things be? And what sign will there be that these things are about to take place? And he said, Take heed that you do not be deceived. For many will come in my name, saying, I am he. And the time has drawn near. Therefore, do not go after them. But when you hear of wars and commotions, do not be terrified, for these things must come first in the first place. And the end will not become immediately. Then he said to them, Nations will rise up against nations, kingdoms against kingdoms, and there will be a great earthquakes in various places, and famine and pestilence, and there will be fearful sights and great signs of heaven. But before these things, they will lay hands upon you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and prisons. You will be brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. But it will turn out to an occasion for testimony. Therefore, settle it in your hearts not to meditate beforehand on what you will answer. For I will give you your mouth a word of wisdom, which you shall all your adversaries will not be able to contradict or resist. You will be betrayed, even the parents and brothers and relatives and friends, and they will put some of you to death, and you will be hated by all for my name's sake. But not a hair on your head shall be lost, but by your patience possess of your souls. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then you know that desolation is near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the midst of her depart. Let those who are in the country enter her. For these are the days of vengeance, that the things which are written before may be fulfilled. But woe to those who are pregnant. Woe to those who are nursing babies in those days. For there will be great distress in the land and wrath upon the people. and they will fall off to the edge of the sword and be led away captive in all nations. And Jerusalem will be trampled by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. And there will be signs of the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and the earth will be distressed by nations and with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing from fear and expectation of those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in the cloud with power and great glory. Now when these things have begun to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. Then he spoke to them a parable. Look at the fig tree and all the trees. For when they are already budding, you see and know yourselves that summer is now near. So also, when you see these things happening, you know the kingdom of God is near. Assuredly, I say to you, this is the generation that will by no means pass away till all things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. Take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down by the carousing drunkenness and the cares of this life, and the day will come on you unexpectedly. For it will come as a snare on those who dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch therefore, and pray always, that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. May the Lord bless you as you continue to consider the teaching of Christ during this Passion Week.